I think most of us depend on a good post office. Most of us have spent most of our lives depending on a good post office, and all you have to do is go to another country where that doesn't work. I've been in Russia, I've been in Greece where it doesn't work terribly well, Turkey, Albania, and you look back and you think, oh my goodness, the British post office is a marvel. And now today, you look at what we've got left of the post office. My local post office has recently just closed, and now if I want to use the post office, I have to use the main post office in Rugby, which is quite a trek down to the centre of town, and it's a sort of misery, really. And you have to ask, is it worth keeping that misery? For what purpose? Well, in the past, there used to be these long queues in the post office for passport help, for actually getting passports. I remember you could get these sort of quick jobs, which were very effective. And I remember travelling to Germany on one, and and I went to school there. There's also there was also payments. You could get payments. You could get bits and pieces done. You could put payments in. You could get payments out. It was very effective, and this continued until just a few years ago. And now I have to ask, what is the point of the modern post office? We can't be keeping something simply because it's a gesture towards nostalgia. And keeping the post office in its present form is to accept all the abuse and all the failure of the current post office, the failure to give us to deliver the post when we expect it, the failure to actually be there at the centre of our community. There's no point in keeping something that doesn't work, and it would be better to replace Post Office Limited with something that does work, if necessary, calling that something else, if necessary, getting something like DHL to take it over. But the current format is a disaster. And to link that to Royal Mail, which of course we all do, even though they've got two distinct names and they're two distinct entities, they are combined in the popular imagination completely. And it's only pedants who say that there's a difference between them. Pedants like me, of course. But what could we do to restore, reform, replace the post office as it exists now? Well, there are two things we can do. Number one, I'm afraid we have to renationalise the post office if there's going to be any hope at all for its survival. And number two, if we don't wish to renationalise it, we need to give it to a company that can actually do the job properly. And I think, frankly, I would prefer the former. I think a post office which pretends to be a private institution and is linked to a national institution like the Royal Mail in some tenuous relationship is just playing a game. It's like playing camping at the bottom of the garden. Give up, either go on a proper camping expedition, become a scout, or come back into the house. It's just ridiculous playing these stupid games. And I'm afraid the same games playing is there in the railways. Either the railways becomes a completely private enterprise and you privatise everything, or you come back into the house. It's the same issue. This halfway privatisation, so beloved of both the major Conservative Party and the Blair Labour Party, doesn't work. Either you do privatisation or you keep the thing national. But this halfway house has been proven again and again and again to fail. Because there's nothing in there to compel private companies to actually do the job. The same thing is true of hospitals. Hospitals, either they need to be completely private or they need to be completely public, but this halfway house doesn't work. And you would turn around and say, oh yes, but in fact the National Health Service is always bought in from private firms. Well, it's bought in as the National Health Service. It's in the name. And I think we need to stop playing games. I think we need to do some renationalising. It's very simple. If we're going to save the post office, we need to nationalise it. If we're going to save the health service, we need to nationalise it properly. And if we're going to save the railways, we need to nationalise them.